I just played in the One Piece first anniversary tournament for OPO5 Awakenings of the New Era and went undefeated with Purple Luffy. It's your boy Beatsbyash, back at it again with another banger of a video, and just yesterday I was able to compete in my first One Piece tournament since taking a break during OPO4. On top of that, it was the first tournament where in a few months I was able to actually go with all of my friends together, which is, just a really enjoyable aspect of the game, and to be able to do that, I'm very fortunate to do so. I'm super happy to say I was able to take down the tournament with the deck that I just made an awesome in-depth guide video on. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check out my first episode of the new series I started called Meta Mechanics on the Purple Luffy deck, make sure to go do so if you want to get a really in-depth look on how to pilot this deck and how to extract the most value out of these cards. But today we're going to go over the 4 matches that it took me to bring home the coveted Purple Luffy winner card. Take a look at that bad boy. What a beautiful card, and to the winner go the spoils. So super excited to bring that one home and get back into the win column. Gotta love to see it. Quickly before we hop into the matches, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the deck list that I used. The one thing that stands out here is the 2Ks are very random, and that's just because I used whatever 2Ks I had available in my bulk, and it just really goes to validate my point that I brought up in the Meta Mechanics episode about the 2Ks being very interchangeable, since more likely than not, you're never going to want to actually put one of those on the board, and it never came up for me throughout the entire tournament. If you have any questions about the list, make sure to let me know down below. But without further ado, let's hop into these games and get into the goo. Alright guys, match number 1 here. We're going to be going up against a red purple Luffy player, and I'm going to be starting us off on the play. I'm going to go ahead and pass as there are no turn 1 plays in our deck. He's going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and start off using the leader ability to go to 4 here. I'm going to go ahead and attack just for fun. And then we're going to drop down our Scratch Manapoo. Always good to see a 4-cost 6k starting on turn 2. He's going to go ahead and attack us for 6 here. I'm going to go ahead and just take the first damage. I didn't have too much counter in my hand at that time. And then I ended up triggering the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, which allows us to ramp it on, which is probably the best thing that could happen to us there. He's going to drop down a Law, not using the effect. It's going to go back to us, and since we were able to ramp that Dawn, we don't have to use our leader ability a second time here, which is really crucial because it's just such a risk to go down to 2 life at this point in the game. We're going to go ahead and start off by swinging 6 with our Scratch Man at his leader. And he's going to have to block with his Law here. Unfortunately, he doesn't have counter in his hand. And then we're going to drop down the 7-cost Captain Kid here and just not use the effect. That way we'll be at 9 Dawn without using our leader ability on the following turn. Very important decision to make, not always using your ability of Eustace Kid during the turn it's played so that you don't have to use your leader ability on the following turn. He's going to go ahead and Dawn 1 up and attack our Scratch Man here for 7. I'm going to have to discard 2 1Ks because unfortunately we didn't have a 2K, and it's very important to keep our bodies on the board. And then he's going to drop down the 3-cost 4K Zoro Joro. The first time I've ever seen that card, so had to take a quick little read. Don't be afraid to read your opponent's cards if you don't know what something does. It's always good to make sure that you understand what the other guy can do. Now we're going to go ahead and be at 9 this turn. Very crucial for us. I'm going to go ahead and start off by attacking with our Scratch Man before we use any of our Dawn. And then he's going to have to use a Rad Beam on this. Unfortunately, he still doesn't have very much counter at all, but he needs to protect his life since he does start at 3. And then we're going to go ahead and tap 9 to play down our 9-cost Kaido and use the effect to remove his Zoro Joro. I was thinking about at this time playing a Magellan, but I didn't have anything else to do in my hand, so I felt like it would just be better to play Kaido, considering he's kind of in like a weird position right now, and we're already so far ahead on board. And then now we can go ahead and attack him for 8 with our Captain Kid, and he's going to be forced to take here since he has no counter in hand. And then we're going to be able to attack with our leader for 6, boosted by the Eustace Kid, and he's going to go ahead and counter out of it with his second Rad Beam. And then we're going to attack one more time with 9-cost Kaido. He's going to go ahead and use his ability to go up to 9 Dawn here. Looks like he's going to go ahead and put 5 Dawn on his Luffy, putting him to 11 and attacking our 7-cost Captain Kid. We're going to need 4,000 counter here to defend this, and considering we're in a situation where we can lethal him next turn, I'm going to go ahead and use the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, get rid of the Dead Magellan since he's already so high in the Dawn chain, discarding a Eustace Captain Kid 5-drop to give us that 4,000 power, and then he'll drop down a Law and pass back to us, setting us up for a for sure lethal situation. Very unfortunate for him, he just did not have a good draw. As you can kind of tell, he clumped on those 10-cost Luffys in hand, and you know, not being able to go first with a hand like him is even worse. But we're going to go ahead and attack with our Scratchman for 6 here, and he's going to use the Otama. I think that's the only counter card he has in his hand. And then we're going to go ahead and drop down the 5-cost Kid just to play it safe since there's almost no way we can lose here. Hindsight 2020, I probably could have just put all the Dawn on the other guys and just went for game, but this was my first match, you know, in an IRL tournament in a long time, so I wanted to just play it safe. But he's going to be forced to take that damage from our 7-cost Kid attack, and then we're going to go ahead and swing 7 with our leader here. Unfortunately, he only has one 1k counter, so he's going to be forced to use his blocker, and then we attack with our Kaido, and that's going to be GG. Very unfortunate turn of events for him, but sometimes that's just how the game goes in a best of 1 card game. But overall, super glad to meet that guy. Awesome first match just to get back into the groove. Match number 2 here, we're going to be going up against the big homie Ben D, aka the man who happens to pull a manga every single set on the Doffy goo. I'm going to go ahead and go first once again, and I've got no turn 1 play, and he's going to start things off with a really unfair play. Turn 1 Prono, look at the top 5, you hate to see it, and then on top of that, he also has a 1-drop blocker Law. What is this bullshit, man? Why do I go up against this? My friends are always opening hella dirty against me. We're going to go ahead and use our leader ability, go back to 4 as is per standard, and then we're going to go ahead and attack him for 5. He's going to take the first damage. What you like to see, and then we're going to tap out to play another 4-cost 6k vanilla in the form of page 1. I think it's pretty obvious here what's about to happen. The standard Doflamingo bread and butter is going to go ahead and dawn up his leader here and hit us for 7. Using the effect, summoning a Jinbei. Sorry bud, your Jinbei is not going to be KOing anything today. And unfortunately, we didn't have any counter in our hand, so I'm going to have to take that first one. And then he's going to follow it up with a 1-drop Doflamingo, allowing him to rearrange the top 3 cards of his deck again, and then find another Warlord for next turn. Man, if he would have went first, his opener would have just been unbeatable. Doflamingo is actually really scary because if they have a 9-drop Mihawk in response to our 7-drop Kid, we can just be in a really bad position, because then the life that we lost from our ramp ability just really starts to add up. We're going to go ahead and use our leader ability here, putting us as 7 and putting us down to 2 life. And then I decide to go ahead and attack with page 1 first here before we commit any plays, trying to kill that Jinbei. And we succeed by killing the Jinbei. Gotta love to see it. Now we're gonna go ahead and tap out here, dropping down the 7-cost Kid. You gotta love this curve, man. Going 4-cost 6k into a 7-cost Kid is just so OP. I decided not to use the ability here as I did in the first game. That way we don't end up having to use our leader ability on the 3rd turn, which is especially important because we are already at 2 life. Once you get down past 3, you're in a really bad position for your opponent to potentially be able to like push through, especially when you don't have the liberty to put down 2 blockers yet. He's going to go ahead and use his leader ability once again, swinging for 7, summoning the Boa Hancock. Fuck Boa Hancock. That card is broken. And we're going to go ahead and counter out of that with a 2k and a 1k there. He's going to go ahead and dawn up his Perona and try to hit us one more time here. And I'm going to be forced to counter out of that one because we don't want to take any more damage at this point. You really want to be thinking like 2 to 3 turns ahead with this deck so that you can calculate like how much life you're willing to take and like how much dawn you're willing to invest in characters, and just how much counter are you going to save to protect your characters, because losing the board is really bad in this deck. I'm going to go ahead and start things off by attacking him with our page 1 here, as we do have the 9-cost Kaido in our hand, so no reason to attack his boa and be greedy here. So we're going to drop down the Kaido, use the effect to kill his boa. Now, there was a possibility that I could have used page 1 to attack the boa, but he could have just let it die and then we don't have a good target to kill with Kaido. So that's why I'd rather hit face. And then we're going to use our kid, activate the ability, and hit face for 8, putting our leader to 6 this turn, and then attack him one more time for 6. He's going to go ahead and throw away his 1-drop blocker law, and at this moment, he immediately realizes that he should have used his blocker on my 10k attack instead of the 6,000 one and just countered out. I told him he could take it back, but he was like, nah, it's all good. I don't know if he just didn't have the counter or he just wanted to, play by the rules, but, I always like to let people do things as it would happen if they didn't miss something, if it's not going to be like a drastic change, because obviously no one would do that play if they realized that I could actually attack again in the same turn. I don't like to beat people by them not playing at their best, if you would say. He's going to go ahead and drop down the Gecko Moria and use the effect to add back a 1-drop blocker law. The 1-drop blocker law is really, really good against our deck because it's really not worth it for us to use our character removal to get rid of those since they only cost 1. And then he's going to go ahead and use his Doffy to attack us for 6 as our leader is at 6 power right now. And then we're going to go ahead and counter out of that with an X-Drake just because I don't want to take a damage right now and I don't think he can really threaten my characters and kill them this turn. And then he's going to go ahead and drop down another law and then drop down the one he added back to hand and replace one of his characters play a 3rd law. At this point, if he didn't mess up last turn, I feel like we'd be in way worse of a position because stacking up those 1-drop blockers is just really, really good versus Purple Luffy. Now, we are going to be back at 5 Dawn this turn, considering we did use our 9-cost Kaido and as well the effect of 7-cost Captain Kid. And honestly, the difference between going back to 5 and going back to 6 really is not a big difference because we still wouldn't be able to play anything above 5 unless we use our leader ability to ramp, which typically at this point in the game is really not worth it. Now, I'm going to decide to go ahead and attack with page 1 before we decide to commit to any play here. He's going to go ahead and take the last life because he believes in the power of the 1-drop blockers here. And then we're going to go ahead and tap 4 to play down another copy of page 1 here. I think at the time I was thinking about whether I wanted to use the ulti combo, and I felt like it just wasn't necessary to get rid of a 2k here. And then we're going to go ahead and use our Use's Kid to attack him, forcing out the law blocker, and then once again raising our leader back to 6,000 power. And then we're going to go ahead and attach a Dawn here, attacking for 7. We've used up all of our Dawn, but we've set up our defenses, and I think it's a really low chance for him to be able to kill us, so we're sitting pretty nice at 2 life here. Now, he's going to go ahead and use another one of his laws, and then we're going to attack again with our 9-cost Kaido, forcing out the 3rd law there, and then we're going to pass back to him. He's going to go ahead and attack us for 5, and at the time, I actually didn't realize I was at 6,000, so I ended up taking the damage, but it doesn't end up mattering, so it is what it is. This is my first tournament in a long time, so to no surprise, I'm going to make a few mistakes here. Fortunate enough for us, we were just in like an auto win position, so it didn't really matter too much. He's going to go ahead and drop down double Gecko Moria, adding back 2 law blockers, and then filling up the field with 5 characters back again. Now that it's back to our turn and he has only 2 blockers on the field and we've got a total of 5 attacks, it's looking pretty much guaranteed for us. We're just kind of talking through, what's happened here. So I decided to go ahead and just use my leader ability since, it's going to be game regardless, just to get an additional Dawn here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start attacking for 7s. That way, we're demanding an optimal amount of cards out of his hand, try to force out those law blockers. But, regardless of what order we attack in, I think it's just pretty much GG at this point. Now, I decided to go ahead and attack for 7 one more time with our second page 1, forcing out the law blocker here. And then he's just going to go ahead and give it to me because we both know that there's no way he can stop this attack. Match number 3, I ended up getting paired up against the only other homie I came to the tournament with. I'm going to be starting first once again, won all 3 die rolls so far, so you got to love to see it. He's going to be on yellow Enel this time. Funny thing is, the other 2 people who were still playing were also in a yellow versus purple matchup, so kind of funny to see. He's going to start off with the 2-cost Searcher for Skypea, adding him the 5-cost 2k counter that summons itself from life. Take a quick look at that beautiful hand there. We're going to start this match off by using our leader ability, as that is the only thing you can do in this deck. And then we're going to go and attack him for 5. He's going to take the first damage. No trigger. You gotta love to see it. And then we'll drop down to page 1, the reoccurring story of today's video. He's going to go ahead and attack us for 5 with his leader. And then I'll counter out by discarding a queen. Probably not going to need that. He's going to tap out for a ohm. Try to look for the dog here. And unfortunately for him, he does not hit the dog, which is what we like to see. Funny enough, I played like 5 times against him before we came to the tournament, and he just had the dog combo every single game. But the one time it counts, he doesn't actually have it, so super nice for us. We'll go ahead and use our ability for a second time, putting us at the magic number of 7. Now, before we tap out for the turn, we're going to go ahead and attack with page 1. He's going to take the second damage, which is pretty nice for us. He ends up drawing the dog a little bit too late. Kind of funny, though. And then we'll drop down the man of the video, Eustace Captain Kidd, swing for 6, actually using the ability for the first time on the first turn it's been played. Pretty good in this situation where your opponent already has a couple bodies on board, kind of taxing him from donning up his Searcher here to try to get in another damage. He's going to go ahead and use his ohm to attack our page 1. Since he is at 2 or less life, his ohm is currently at 6,000 power, and we will get out of it with a Scratchman. Now he's going to don up his leader 2x and go ahead and attack our page 1 once again. Now we'll counter out of this one with a 2k counter, and then he's going to drop down a 4-cost blocker Sanji. Pretty minimal damage turn for us. One thing you can kind of look out for against Purple Luffy is that if they do use the ability of Captain Kidd on play, then they probably don't have a 9-cost Kaido, because if they did, then they definitely wouldn't be using it. We're going to go ahead and start this turn off by using page 1 to attack Ohm, forcing out the Charlotte Brûlée in hand. And then we're going to go ahead and pay 5 and put down our 5-drop Captain Kidd. Considering we are at 8, that is very impactful for us to be able to put 2 characters on the board this turn. Think of the Captain Kidd 5-drop as ramping a Dawn and not just paying for the cost, because now we just, instead of returning a Dawn to the Dawn deck, we added an additional Dawn for this turn. So while we are still at 8, we're technically using 9 Dawn here so that we can play out our Law. And because of that, we are now able to use the ability of Law and discard 2 random cards out of his hands. So super awesome combo. Anytime you can get the additional Dawn value out of the 5-drop in the same turn, you're looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and discard a Yamato and a Katakuri from his hand. Kind of a miss. Would have liked to get some counters out of his hand, but I guess the Katakuri was dangerous to removing our 7-drop Kid, because that can be a really problematic answer when you're playing the Purple Luffy deck. And then we're going to go ahead and finish off the turn by hitting for 6 with our leader. He's going to go ahead and trigger another Sanji blocker and then use the ability of his leader in order to discard a copy of the Screaming Man to get back an additional life. Ortiz is going to go ahead and start off his turn by donning up his blocker Sanji number 1 in order to attack, I believe, our leader. In order to attack our page 1, actually. My bad. And I'm going to go ahead and just let him have it because it was too much of a counter investment, and I don't want to get rid of my card so he could just kill our 7-cost Kid this turn. He's going to follow it up with an attack from his leader using all of the Adon that he has available. It's kind of funny here because I thought I was going to have to use 4k counter to protect our 7-cost Captain Kidd, but then I actually realized after like sitting there for a full minute that I had 2 blockers on field, and so we were kind of pointing that out. You know, I'm a little bit rusty from my in-person days, but eventually I found out that I could just jump block with a 5k blocker and keep my 7-cost Captain Kidd, as, you know, that is the most important thing on the board right now. Now we're going to go ahead and start off our turn by dropping down a second 5-cost Captain Kidd, which is really good because the effects do stack, and since we already have a 7-cost Captain Kidd, it's going to increase our remaining Dawn from 4 to 6, in the addition of basically boosting up our leader for free this turn with 7-cost Kidd's ability. Man, 5-cost Kidd is just such an insane card, man. This is exactly what Purple needed. Now we will go ahead and Dawn up our 5-cost kid and use it to attack his rested Sanji, attacking for 7 there. Did a couple quick calculations there on how much Dawn I would have available and like what we'd be able to do. It's kind of hard to do the math in real time when you have all of these like return Dawn and gain Dawn back effects, but I finally figured it out, and I'm going to go ahead and attach an additional Dawn to my 7-cost kid here, returning a Dawn to the Dawn deck and then gaining back to Dawn. So pretty good situation for us. Hindsight, I probably didn't need to actually attach it on there, but it just felt good, you know. Sometimes when it feels right, you just got to do it. And then we're going to go ahead and attack with our leader for 6. He's going to counter out with a Veggie, and then we'll tap our 4 remaining Dawn to play out a Scratch Man. Really insane turn from us. As you can see, the additional 2 Dawn that we gained to play with from our 5-cost Captain Kids really made a difference there, allowing us to Dawn up our characters and play the Scratch Man in the same turn. Now he's going to go ahead and Dawn up his Searcher and then attack our 5-cost kid, and then I'm going to counter out of it with the Scratch Man, and then he's going to go ahead and attack with his leader for 6. And I decided to go ahead and protect the 5-cost Captain Kid for the second time this turn, because I feel like if we get back to our turn, we're just going to win the game. If we have 3 characters on the board and untap this turn, like, it's just GG. Definitely not playing fully optimal here, and you're going to see a lot of that. So if you see any misplays, I mean, don't be surprised. I'm getting back into the groove, and I will come back better than ever next time. But we got the dub either way. We're going to go ahead and start off this turn by dropping down a page 1. So now we have filled the board with an additional 4-cost 6k. Hindsight 2020, I think we talked about it, and I probably should have just went for game instead of dropping down the page 1, because it looks like a pretty conclusive game state. But at the time, that did kind of pass me by. I kind of just wanted to play it safe. You know, I have a blocker on board, and I'm going to be able to boost up my leader this turn. So I end up deciding to Dawn up our 7-cost Captain Kid and attack for 9 on his Sanji, and using the ability to give our leader plus 1000. Next, I'll Dawn up our Scratch Man and swing at him for 7. Try to force out his leader ability this turn. And then he's going to go ahead and use 2 cards to counter out of that attack. Next, we'll go ahead and follow that up with an 8k swing from our 5-cost Captain Kid here. And then he's going to respond with the new yellow Rad Beam, El Thor, and then we'll go ahead and use our leader here all the way dawned up. Now, since he's a good friend, we talked about it, and it was just better for me to attack his character, so putting the additional Dawn on my leader really didn't do anything, considering I don't want to attack his last life when it could be a trigger that could put him back into the game. But he's going to go ahead and give me the game, because there's no way that he can come back. I do have 3 life remaining. I did kind of play it a little bit safe there. Probably could have went for lethal a little bit earlier, but that is neither here nor there. Overall, good match. Still learning the matchup, but that's going to put us into the finals. All right, last match of the day, guys, going up against my boy Kyle on Enel once again. You may remember him from the top 32 Zoro deck profile we did on him earlier this year, but he's going to go ahead and start us off with a Searcher, getting that juicy 2k that summons itself from life, and then I'm going to go ahead and use our leader ability here, putting us up to 4 this turn, and then we're going to go ahead and attack before putting out a drop, just in case he ends up triggering a Thunderbolt. He'll counter out of it with the Screaming Man, and then we'll go ahead and drop down a Scratch Man Apu. He's going to go ahead and attack us for 6 with his leader. Unfortunately, I don't have enough counter in hand. I didn't want to use that many resources. And then he'll go ahead and drop down a dog to pass the turn. One thing to note is, if they do play the dog, then that is a good signal they do not have the Ohm, as that is almost always just the better thing to do, right? Now, we're going to have to use our leader ability here to go to 7. Very unfortunate, because we are now down to 2 life. Not where you want to be at this point in the game, but we have to do it in order to generate a tempo swing. Now, we're going to go ahead and start by attacking with our leader before we put anything out once again, just to play around that trigger. He'll discard another Screaming Man, and then we'll play down alternate art Polly, killing his dog, giving us a free Dawn, and then attacking with Scratch Man for 7. Gotta love the sequencing, baby. That was a nice turn. Pauly is just super important in this matchup, and in general, I just think it's probably the second best 7-drop to play after Eustace Kid. And it's going to put us on 10 Dawn on the following turn, so if we wanted to use a 9-cost Kaido, it's not going to be as much of a cost the turn after playing the Kaido, since we'll have an additional Dawn from that point forward. He's going to go ahead and start things off by tapping out for a Shirahoshi, so that either means he has a very weak hand or he has a Charlotte Katakuri in hand, which either way it's pretty good for us, because if he's not developing the board, then we're going to be able to start generating a lot of tempo and just taking over the game. He's going to discard the dog, and then he's going to go ahead and swing at us for 6 with his leader. This time around, we're going to have to counter out of this because we can't take any more damage, especially in a deck like his. So we'll discard the page 1 and the Trafalgar Law. Unfortunately, I didn't have a 2K in hand, but what can you do? Going back to 10 Dawn on this turn, I could have dropped down a 9-cost Kaido, and I was really thinking about it, but I just didn't feel like the impact of killing his Shirahoshi was high enough to set us back the Dawn on the following turn, especially when we already have control of the board. I feel like it's a better turn to develop multiple bodies in order to take advantage of him not putting out a threat on the board last turn. So we'll just start off by attacking with Scratchman. He's going to discard the Capone Gang Beji. Next, we will go ahead and attack with our leader before doing anything else. He'll discard the Charlotte Brûlée, and then we're going to use 5 Dawn here to drop down our 5-cost Eustace Captain Kid blocker, getting that Dawn refund online. And then we will quickly, before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and swap out the leader. Somebody wanted to make sure I wasn't poverty in the finals, but we're going to go ahead and use our 5 remaining Dawn to tap out for a queen, allowing us to refund that Dawn with Eustace Captain Kid, which is very, very valuable at this point. Anytime you can extract value with 5-cost Kid, you really want to do so. It's going to allow us to hit for 7 instead of 6 with our Pauly, which is really huge right now since we're pressuring and developing the board in the same turn, putting us very far ahead in this match. He's going to go ahead and play the bread and butter combo of the Charlotte Katakuri, putting back the Shirahoshi into the life. That was probably the best thing that could have happened to him, and in hindsight, maybe it was a little bit better to use Kaido to kill the Shirahoshi, but I didn't want to risk that, and I just felt like not getting set back on this turn is just so much better, especially because we can do the Kaido at any point. Maybe he'll put out a better threat for us to answer, plus just getting the 5-cost Kid on the board as soon as possible really pays dividends, as the longer that card's on the board, the more value you're going to extract. Here we'll go ahead and tap 7 to play our Eustace Captain Kid 7-drop, refunding us a Dawn from 5-drop Captain Kid, and then our leader is going to be boosted up to 6k this turn, which is really important when you're at a low health total. Now, with our 4 Dawn remaining, we'll just go ahead and attack for 6 with Scratchman. He's going to discard a Shirahoshi and then quickly learn that he needs to discard another card because we are attacking for 6, not 5. So I'll let him take that back. He'll discard the 2k that summons from life. And then we'll go ahead and Dawn up our leader and start attacking for 7s. He'll take the damage, summoning the Shirahoshi from life, drawing 2 Yamatos and the event. Not very good for him, and I think he already had a Yamato in hand. He was really looking to find some counter at this point. So he's going to go ahead and discard an Enel, another non-counter card, along with the copy of the event he just drew. I had never seen that event before, but it's very interesting. It's active main, so I'm just not a big fan of that because I don't think you want to be using your Dawn for things outside of developing the board in this deck. We'll go ahead and Dawn up our Pauly and swing for 7 once again. He's going to have to take this one. Doesn't have enough counter. I think he top decked another Katakuri, which is really, really sad. Then we'll go ahead and Dawn up our Queen, hit for 7 one more time, always trying to get those efficient attacks. He's going to go down to 0 and use his leader ability, and then he's going to trigger a Thunderbolt and kill our 5-drop Kid. But, I mean, he got to get rid of a Yamato out of his hand, so it's probably one of the better things that could happen for him. A little unfortunate for us he got the trigger, but still, we're just so far ahead, it's not going to matter. And he is tapping out to play a Yamato. Doesn't have enough life in order to kill something on the board, but he is going to be able to get back a life, which is one of the better things that could happen for him right now. It's just, his board is just way far behind than our board, and his Katakuri will attack our queen. We'll counter out of it with a 2k and a 1k here, as I want to untap with as many characters on the board as possible in order to continue pressuring him. Then his leader will swing 6 at our 6,000 poly, demanding another card from our hand. Unfortunately, we have to get rid of ulti. I think it was my only counter card at the time, but you know, like I said, we want to be pressuring him as much as possible while we're ahead, you know, forcing him to not be able to attack our leader if we don't kill him and have to answer our characters. We'll go ahead and dawn up our Scratchman here, start attacking for 7. He's going to take the hit, and he does not get a trigger, which is pretty good for us. We'll go ahead and attack with Polly for 7 the second time this turn. I really wanted to attack with other characters before our Eustace Kid first. That way we can return a Dawn that's underneath one of them, and then he'll discard a Shirahoshi and the 2k that summons from life. Then we can attack for 8 with our Eustace Kid. I thought about attaching to make him 9, but it just didn't seem important with how few cards he has. And then he is going to take the hit, using his leader ability to discard an Enel, putting him back to 1 this turn. And then I'll go ahead and attach 4 Dawn to our leader. That's going to put us up to 11. Or I'm going to attach 5 Dawn to our leader, actually. Our attack for 10 with our leader. He's going to discard 2 cards to protect his Katakuri. Hindsight, I could have just attacked his leader. It was probably better, but I didn't feel like he could kill me next turn, and so Katakuri felt safer. But we'll drop down the Law Blocker, attack him with Queen for 6. And then he's going to trigger a Sanji blocker. Sorry, a little bit hard to see here, but I mean, that's really scary because we only have 1 blocker up. I mean, it was a little bit risky of me to attack with my queen. I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to him whether he wants to try his luck and go for game. He doesn't know we have less counter hand than we do. He ends up getting to kill our Polly by attacking with his Katakuri or his Yamato, not really sure which. Okay, so he attacked with his Yamato, and then he's going to use his Katakuri to kill our queen. I'm going to have to let that one go too. I'm pretty confident if I get to untap with at least 2 characters, I'm probably going to be able to be killing him on that turn, but I'll protect our Scratchman there, and then he's going to drop down another copy of Yamato, putting him back to 1. Man, this guy's got multiple Yamatos back to back. You hate to be going up against that. We'll start off by attaching 2 Dawn to our Law, swing for 7 as his leader, try to pressure him as much as possible. He's going to use his leader ability, discarding a 2k, going back up to 1 life. Honestly, in the moment, I probably could have just been being more aggressive and tried to go for games sooner, but you know, I had a lot of protection, so I felt like I could play to the only way I could lose the game, which is him hitting a trigger. Fortunate enough for us, on that last attack he didn't hit another trigger, but he still does have a Sanji blocker, so you know, anything could have happened there. But at this point, we're just going to be able to split the Dawn amongst our leader and our Eustace Captain Kid. And he knows that's going to be GG because he only had 2 cards in hand. You know, we were able to hit for 7 when he had 1. And then being able to put our kid to 9 and our leader to 9 that turn is going to put him in a auto-lose situation, considering he only has 1 blocker. And there's no way to get out of a 9k swing unless you have minimum 3 cards or a Dawn available to use events, which he did not have. That's going to be the end of this match and as well the end of this video. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you guys enjoy this kind of content and you want to see me do more of these kind of tournament rundowns, and especially with decks that I'm going to be explaining on the channel, make sure to let me know. As well, we are in the works for doing Meta Mechanics Episode 2 over Blue Black Sakazuki. If you have any other recommendations of which decks you would like to see on that series, I'm going to try to do as many of them as I feel are viable as I can, but if you guys have a preference to what order I do those in, make sure to let me know that as well. As always, if it's not the goo, it's got to go. Peace.
Ooh, is that indigo?